Okay, got it.
Okay. Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Iowa Prison Perspectives. My name is Sue Hutchins, and as some of you who have joined this before already know, and for those of you who don't know, this particular channel is a collaboration between Iowa Cure, Living Beyond the Bars of Iowa, and the Iowa Justice Action Network. The purpose of this is to inform you, the public, from a variety of different perspectives about the prison system in Iowa. And we are now also including surrounding states, which has been something that has been asked by different viewers to know what goes on in other states in addition to what goes on in Iowa to make some comparisons for themselves. I really welcome your comments. I can be reached at iowaprisonperspectives@gmail.com, and that's iaprisonperspectives@gmail.com. Today we have a person who has been part of Iowa Cure for a number of years, and he's a very, very important, integral part of Iowa Cure. He's an organizer, and he also makes contact with certain inmates and then helps them when they re-enter into society. So he has a lot to share about his own experience. Iowa Cure is we are in Cure itself is actually international. It's throughout the United States and also has different meetings in different parts of the organization in a variety of different countries. So we really, really try from Iowa Cure, we really try to improve prison conditions and also to keep prisoners abreast of what goes on out here and to keep people abreast out here of what goes on in prison. So I want to introduce you to Richard, who is, like I said, a very, very important part of Iowa Cure. So, Richard,
Um,
it's all yours.
oh, well, thank you, Sue. As Sue mentioned, I am the treasurer of Iowa Cure, and as that role, I open the mail and kind of deal with that. So I get to sort of see what some of the things that go on, and it's always very eye-opening to see what goes on in prison, how it affects people in the prison and their loved ones. And I've never actually had a loved one in prison, but I've been quite long involved in prison ministry, if you want to call it that, related to because of my relationship with my church in Des Moines, which is Trinity Las Americas United Methodist Church, of course, Trinity Methodist Church, when this all began. Always been rather active in these things because of some of the members there. One of the things that we did in the old days was take people to visit prisons, and I drove some of those trips. And um, this Iowa Cure was organized by Jean Basinger, who had experience with people in Iowa prisons, goes back years before that. She was part of um, Criminal Justice Ministries, which had a house, uh, sort of a halfway house in Des Moines. She got me on that board, and I already was a pen pal of a gentleman at the Fort Madison prison, and I'd big through my also my involvement in our congregation. I went on the 10th anniversary of Habitat for Humanity walk, which must have been in 1986, for about 100 miles across southern Missouri. I mean, they went 1,000 miles, but anyway, I thought, well, I could go, and with a little help, I could go visit my friend. His name was Bill. And so I talked to the board there. I said, if you will help me, I will walk to prison and we'll make a 180 miles or whatever it is to Fort Madison, and we'll make some publicity with the local newspapers and radio
Yeah.
stations along the way. So we did that, and I thought it was a one-time thing. And Bob Notman Cook, as he was known then, Bob Cook, joined me the last day or two. He says, we should do this every year. And I had no intention of that, but Jean really liked the idea, and her husband, her late husband, Bill, was very supportive. And so there were a number of these walks with, maybe 5, 7 people walking between either to or from Des Moines in one of the prisons, or sometimes other places too. We got in all parts of the state. And Jean, when the house was sold and so forth, she thought she wanted to continue some of the work. So she found out about national cure and start the Iowa chapter. So that's kind of how I got involved. I and I sort of drove family members to prison, and then um, I got through Jean also. She had our congregation. We wrote to the 38 people in the Iowa prison system were affected by the Supreme Court decision in regard to sentencing of people whose crimes were committed while they were underage. Call them juvenile lifers. And I wrote to one such person, and he wrote back. So I wrote him for several years, visited him a time or two, and eventually he was released to go to Mexico, where he's a citizen. And as far as I know, he's doing pretty well there. I
Yes.
also have worked with another gentleman who I also got through a pen pal who responded to some people in our church wrote Christmas cards to people on the iowacure list, and he responded. So I wrote him, and that was made a much deeper relationship because this was during just the start of the COVID era, and so I haven't visited him much, but I visited him video chat for a long time on not Core Links on what's that program called? Um, anyway, so that to me is a possibility for people getting involved in a more concrete way because you know people as individuals.
Yeah, it's called Emilio.
Emilio, yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's the name of the
Mm-hmm.
video program, which is
And
wonderful.
James actually got his parole 1 year ago today. Um, and maybe a couple more months before he got out of prison. He went to one halfway house. I mean, went to a second halfway house, right? And now he's out in the community doing very well, as far as I can tell, working and a job of quite a bit of responsibility and enjoying it and delivering pizzas on the side. So
And you've been to see him a couple of times. I think you
yeah,
bicycled there to see him,
yeah, I bicycled there and went to see him. Yeah.
which is very awesome that you keep in touch with people. I also think it's important for people to know not only was Cure part of uh, the legislation that helped get juvenile lifers out, get a second chance, get the opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
parole, but also Cure was part of changing the phone prices for the calls for
Right.
people to be able to call from prison. It used to be extremely expensive, and it's gotten less and less over the years. And the
Mm-hmm.
current FCC bill that'll go into effect in January is even less than what it was previously. So it depends on the size of the prison, what the call is going to be, but it's like down to 6 cents a minute in most of our prisons here in Iowa, which is reasonable for families compared to what
Okay.
it was when it was $2 a minute back in the day. So
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to know that. Um, how many people does Cure stay in contact with as far as the newsletter? Because we do have a newsletter that goes out several times a year. And how many people do you know offhand? How many people are on that list?
Mhm. And about 140 years, which is when you think about it, how many people are now in prisons. It's a very small number, although we know they get passed around a lot. Um, and so
Yes.
it's been real problematic getting these newsletters off since mail regulations changed. And it's been very, very difficult. But we have put out several newsletters since this time.
Yeah. Can you talk about
And
what's been difficult? What's made it difficult?
well, theoretically, we're newsletters. Just that the mail regulations, to me, seem to be applied rather different in different institutions. We've tried sending them out the way we used to, and a lot of them get returned. Some institutions, sometimes they get through, so we had to mail them through pigeonly, which seems to be has been in the past reasonably reliable, if reliably slow. And also we have, to me, is very useful as we have at least 100 community members, 120 or something, um, that we have email addresses. So we keep in touch with them through email. And to me, this is potential for us to be more effective is when we can link people on the outside with people on the inside. In other words, if people on the outside write us or get in contact with us, we try to say, well, do you have a loved one in prison? What's this person's name and ID number? And when we get a subscription to the newsletter from somebody on the inside, I always write back and say, is there somebody on the outside, friend or relative, who would keep in touch with us so we can be more effective?
Yes. Yes. And like you said, it used to be relatively, I mean, we could count on the newsletters getting into all the prisons and into the hands of all of the people who were on the list. But since
Mm.
Pigeonly has been contracted with by the Department of Corrections, that has changed greatly. And we get a significant number of them come back to us, not being returned. And people who are inside prison contact us to say that they've never gotten their newsletter, even though we know that we sent it. So we're not really quite sure what the hang up on that is. However, we do know that it's on their end. It's on either the end of Pigeonly or the end of the Department of Corrections in the different prisons, which is very unfortunate because that was a way that we really helped keep people in touch with what was going on out here, what bills we were doing, what we were trying to help happen, what was going on as far as any kind of legislation or any kind of anything that we thought that they felt that would help them know what we were doing and what possibilities there were. Also, I wanted if you would talk about the support group that Cure has for loved ones and
Okay,
concerned.
well, this came from it occurred to me that, like I say, we have more than 100 community members on the email list. That many of these people are feeling very isolated. They have loved ones in prisons. It may not be the sort of thing first thing you share with your work associates or your friends, or casual friends, and probably feeling somewhat isolated. There's ought to be some way we could put them together. So I put out a request for people who are interested, and heard particularly from one person, and she was very persistent and persisted until and through this process I talked to you, Sue, about of doing this, and you said that's very much something you would enjoy doing. So that's if it wasn't for this one person named Rhonda, we wouldn't have had this. And so it's been about 2 years. We've been meeting at least twice a month, sometimes a little more. So that's kind of how that.
Yeah, and we meet on Zoom,
Mhm.
and anybody can join who has a loved one or is concerned about what goes on in the prisons and would like some support. And when they do join, when they do come, they don't have to come every week. It's not like there is like an expectation that they be there every time. And there's also,
Mhm.
it's free of charge. It's also free of charge. And so, yeah, we really, really welcome anybody who would be interested, who has a loved one, who has concerns about what goes on in prisons, to join us on that Zoom network call. So can
Uh,
you say about how many people we have on the list? Not
oh,
everybody comes every week, but how many people do we have on the
probably
list?
have 15 or 20 people that are active occasionally, and
Yes.
a few that I may know some people we may not hear from for weeks or months, and then they're back again. So, oh, and if people are interested, they should write to iowacure, all one word, iowacure @gmail.com, and say they'd like to be interested in the support group, and we can send out the details on how to get part of that.
And the invitation, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that invitation then will be sent every month for the meetings that month.
Mhm.
And like we said, you can join in or you don't have to join in. It just depends on what the needs of the person has.
Right.
I think that's pretty important that Cure is providing a place for people to actually talk and support each other. And one of the things that we have noticed through that support group is that people who are in the support group are getting in touch with other people who are in the support group and maybe writing to prison to see their family and talking on the phone for support back and forth. So it's been very helpful to a good number of people. And I think you and I are very happy about that. I mean, that's our goal. That's our goal. And like Richard said, anybody who wants to join that, would you give that address again for people who would
Yes,
like
it's
to?
an email to iowacure, iowacure, one word, at gmail.com.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, Currently, there is no legislation that CURE is involved with, but we do have a member in CURE who really follows the legislation and gives us a report. Would you talk about that for just a minute? He gives us a report each session about what's going on legislatively that we can back.
Well, Reverend Brian Carter, who's on our board, he does follow these things, and you do too, Sue, of course. I mean, and even talk to legislative leaders and committee people. Um, we don't do this alone generally. We do this through group things. Like last legislative session, we had the day of was it day of
Empathy,
empathy,
the day of empathy.
where a lot of groups join together and actually talk to legislators and kind of find out who's who and let them know that we're out there.
Yes. So we join with other CURE joins with other organizations in doing this work and trying to inform the public, connect people, and be as proactive as possible with what's going on in the prisons, doing whatever we can. So, could you talk? I mean, you mentioned a little bit about what CURE has meant to you, but could you talk about how it has kind of changed your mind, if at all, or changed your heart at all about the prison population?
Well, you've given me a chance to see people in behind bars as people, individuals, with many potentials, many sense of humor or whatever else, and say that's something that uh, it's. I would encourage anybody to try to find someone if you can be in touch with, just to see them as a human being. Say that's affected me.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And so, if anybody's interested in having a pen pal in prison, would it make sense for them to contact Iowa Cure? Or if any
Well,
church is interested in developing a pen pal program, would it make any sense for them to contact
yes, they
Cure
could
to get
contact us.
started?
We have had a group that has, we have given some names to. Uh, so if you're interested, yes, start the conversation by all means by
Okay.
writing to us.
Yes. Yes. So, is there anything else that you want to make sure that you say during this interview about Cure or about yourself personally?
No, I think it's good. It's good. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes. And I appreciate you a lot. A lot. I'm kind of the big mouth and you're the
We
wind
work well
beneath
together,
my
don't
wings. Yeah, we do work very well
we?
together. He's the detail
I
guy, and
retired, tired administrative assistant, so being a fuss budget about details comes naturally to me.
which is awesome because we really need that.
Mhm.
So, for at least from my perspective, what I would like people to know about Cure is that we are interested in what we can do legislatively that is helpful. We are very interested in connecting people with other people who have someone that they love who's incarcerated. We are very interested in connecting and keeping correspondence going between people who are incarcerated and their loved ones and family members. And we would like anybody who is interested in having any kind of a pen pal or whatever, if you would want to contact us, we would be happy to help you understand and get along that path. if that's something you're interested in. Also, if you just have an interest in the criminal justice system, in particular, well, here in Iowa, because we're iowacure, but even in another state, we can hook you up with the people in another state because it's a national organization with chapters in all states. To please contact us if you have any interest in getting involved on any kind of a level with people who are incarcerated. Like Richard said, and like I believe, once we actually have contact with people who are incarcerated, we become more human, they become more human to us. There's something about that personal connection that really, really makes a difference, and sort of fuels the humanity that we all share amongst ourselves as human beings.
Mhm.
So, if you don't have anything else to say, Richard, if there isn't anything still on your mind, we can close this interview.
Okay. Well, I thank you for the chance to talk, Sue, and appreciate your effort on this.
And I appreciate you a lot, as you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So once again, I'm Sue Hutchins, and this is Iowa Prison Perspectives. And I can be reached at iowaprisonperspectives@gmail.com, and that's iaprisonperspectives@gmail.com. Please, please, please feel free to contact me with if you agree or disagree, if you want to get involved. If you want to get involved with CURE, then contact iowacure@gmail. That's all one word, iowacure@gmail. And we will be more than happy to respond to you and see if where you can fit in the organization and get some of your needs met, as well as help meet the
Mhm.
needs of the people that we serve. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
Okay. Bye.